All right, and we are good. Welcome to another episode of the Maryland Made Podcast. The Maryland Made Podcast provides timely, relevant, and practical information to help student athletes and alumni become leaders, develop professional competencies, and be conscientious advocates in both their local and global communities. I am Walt the Big Ten Diversity Fellow in the Maryland Made unit here at Maryland. And joining me today on our More Than an Athlete series is Maxwell Costes of the University of Maryland baseball program. Max is a first baseman for Maryland, but he's more than that. He's a leader across campus. He's a leader with Student Athlete Advisory Committee. He's just a leader across the campus and in athletics. You laughing, Max, but it's true. It's true. And now you're a senior, man. You are a senior now. So you're the big man on campus. You are the upperclassman on your team, a leader on your team. First and foremost, Max, just tell me, how are things going for you, man? First semester of senior year, how's it going?
I mean, I don't have a grade that's lower than a 94 right now. So that's after like exams and stuff. So, I think I'm doing pretty well for myself right now.
Okay. That's good, man. That's good. No complaints from
no complaints at all, to be honest.
I got you, man. And I'm excited to get into this conversation, man. Just because of, your energy that you bring, the presence that you bring, how you carry yourself. You carry yourself well just through SAC, meeting you through SAC. Meeting you, through your story that you put out earlier this year that we'll get into in September. But, despite all of that things, you're a star on the baseball field, All-American, all Big Ten and things like that. But before we get into all of that about what you're doing right now, it's all started somewhere. You're from Baltimore, Maryland. I got a lot of family from Baltimore, so happy to be talking to a guy from Baltimore. Sir. But just take me back, man. Take me back from Baltimore, Maryland. Kind of how has that shaped your identity?
Let's see. I hail from East Side Baltimore City. If you happen to know where like Poly and City are, right? I live like right around them. Like both of those schools, like 5-10 minutes away from me. Right. I was blessed to be able to go to, if you ask me, the best high school in America, the Gilman School, or I met some of my best friends for life there. Grew up in the upper decks watching, Miguel Tejada, Brian Roberts, like all those old Oriole players. Like when I was 4 years old, I was like, man, like how in the world did they play baseball like that? Right. And yeah, man, like I don't necessarily think, I'm someone who's like really amazing or anything like that. That's kind of why I started laughing when you were talking about me.
I got you.
I really just, do what I do. Like I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I don't think I'm more, talented or special, anything like that. Like I kind of just do what I do, to be honest.
I love it, man. I love that. And you said that, you used to watch the Oriole guys, but when did you know that you could be a collegiate baseball player?
I mean, I've been playing baseball apparently all my life. Apparently, like I was, hitting tennis balls that my dad was tossing at me when I was like 3 years old or something like that. So apparently this has always been, this is, something that was meant to be, I guess.
I got you.
I think I thought I was ready to play collegiate baseball my senior year of high school, right? I committed to Maryland the summer after my sophomore year. And I remember after my junior year baseball, I was actually thinking about giving it up, right? I remember because it was like, I wasn't like enjoying it anymore. Right. It seemed to be causing me a lot more stress. It seemed to be like, just wearing down on me like as a person. And I'm like, like I don't want to keep doing this if this is what it's going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's this thing in Baltimore City called RBI, which is returning baseball to inner cities. And it's basically like, for in the most simplified version to describe it, it's kind of like the Little League World Series for like, underprivileged kids in some ways, right? And so I remember a really good friend of my dad reached out to him and said, he has an RBI team, like, he's looking for players to play. Like, if he I didn't even have to go to the practice or anything. Like, he just like, wants to come out and play every now and then. Like, he'd appreciate that. And I decided to go out and play. Like, I was going to games like after like football camp in high school and stuff, right? And I remember, it wasn't like the competition was that great or anything like that, but I kind of remember like finally like enjoying baseball again, if that's the case. Like, I got to reconnect with kids that like I had, lost when I was like 12 years old. We all went our different ways, and we somehow just came back and met each other again right there, like right before we were all about to graduate high school. So I got to spend a summer with them, right? I got to play for the Baltimore City regional team, the 16-18 regional team, and we were the first 16-18 team to ever go to the RBI World Series, actually, right? And I remember, like, it felt like good to be surrounded by people like me playing this sport, right? Like, we were all Black kids, like, we all come from like, like more like like lower socioeconomic backgrounds and stuff like that, but we were all just out here just having fun, right? And I remember when we went to the RBI World Series, it was in Cincinnati, right? So they flew us out to Cincinnati, and I got to meet kids like me from literally all over the country. Like, there was a team there that was from Hawaii. There was a team there that was from Chicago, Houston. There's a team from Patterson, New Jersey, like all over the country. And I feel like that whole like 2-month experience, like playing RBIs and going to play in the RBI World Series, kind of saved my baseball career. Right. And I tell the RBI coaches all, because the RBI coaches, like, they follow me, right? And they every time, like, I'm blessed to receive some recognition, award, accolade or something, like, they'll reach out to me and say like they're proud of me, like, thank you for like, giving some standing to like RBI programs. And I'm like, man, I tell them every single time, like, if it wasn't for y'all, I probably wouldn't be playing baseball right now.
Wow. Yeah,
Right.
man, that's so important. That's so important. Like you said, the representation is so important. Just especially and with baseball, right? Baseball, typically you feel like it's not a sport that's, caters towards people from lower socioeconomic statuses or anything like that, or in the inner cities, because whether it be the travel or whether it be the equipment that you need for a baseball, but you find that RBI team and being able to travel, but also connect with kids within your community, but then connected with kids elsewhere too. Like, that's so powerful.
Like, like the joke I always make is that when do you happen to know the name Monet Davis?
Yep, she's from Philly. I'm from Philly.
Right, the girl from Philly that threw the note, right? Me and her were the best ping pong duo at the RBI. Like, we were literally like, we won like 10 straight games once.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, like stuff like that, where it was just like awesome to get to do it, man.
No doubt, man. No doubt. And glad you had that experience, and glad that, you found that love for baseball again, right? Or and that led you to University of Maryland. And let's see, your brother Marty played baseball at Maryland.
Yes, sir.
How big of an impact of you going to Maryland, or was your brother being there, that ultimately led you to go to Maryland as well?
I mean, to be completely honest, Maryland was always going to be like my top choice.
Okay.
Like, considering that, I'm 45 minutes away, right? So, like, my parents can get to me whenever they need to, but mom isn't popping up in my dorm on a random Tuesday night, right? And, in-state tuition, like it's in the Big Ten, so the competition is high level. Like, you couldn't really ask for more.
I got you.
Right. And, my older brother told me, actually, like, he wanted me to go somewhere else. Right. He wanted me to go somewhere else because he was like, he said, like, I don't want you to think you have to follow me. Right. For some reason, I don't get why. My older brother thinks I'm better than him. I don't get why. But, my older brother has always kind of had, if I'm being honest, like, bigger aspirations than I've had for me, right? And in some ways, you know, I've kind of needed that, I guess, right? Like that person in front of me that was doing like great with their own career, like telling me like you know, I fully believe that you could be better than me, right? So with coming to Maryland, you know, I didn't really feel like any pressure to have to be what he was.
Mm-hmm.
He explicitly told me like he wanted me to enjoy my time here, right? However that may go.
That's so important, man. That's a true big brother.
Mm-hmm.
That's a true big brother, man.
It's a funny story actually. So, when my senior year of high school, right? I like you get 3 free like applications. Right? You get 3 free applications, right? And I only had used one of them. I just applied to Maryland. You know what I'm saying? I just applied to Maryland, and in my high school, I have all the love in the world for them. But you know, my high school typically sends a lot of kids to like Ivy League schools, like the higher, like more like, you know, higher status like public universities in the nation, right? Like I think my graduating class, we had a kid that got into all 8 Ivy League schools on full scholarship.
Wow.
I'm still real cool with that kid too. In fact, my best friend in the whole world goes to Stanford. Best friend, like the coolest kid I ever met. His name is Thomas Booker. He's probably gonna be a first round pick for football this year too. So hoping for that for him too. But the story is my college counselor, he said, you know, just go ahead and like, you know, just pick 2 random universities. Like you might as well use them. Right. So I applied to Princeton and Howard and got into both of them actually. Right. And when the administration found out about it, like I remember that the headmaster personally took me on a tour of Princeton. Right. And I feel like, you know, I get to say that one of my biggest flexes as a person is that I turned down going to Princeton.
That's a big flex.
I feel like
that's a big flex.
Like, I don't feel like that's one of my biggest flexes. Right? I feel like Maryland was definitely the best choice for me. Like I said, I went to a high school that, like, you know, like was an Ivy League school, right? The high school I went to was an Ivy League school. Like, you know, like if I would have chosen to go to somewhere like Princeton, it would have been 4 more years of the same thing.
Got you.
Right? Going to Maryland, like it gave me like an education on life, right? In context and in relation to the like just getting like the, you know, regular like academic education. Like socially, I've gotten to meet people from all walks of life, right? And you're probably going to talk about this later, but like, you know, I'm psychology major, African American studies minor, and like I want to do counseling therapy one day, right? And I feel like, you know, the biggest piece to being a therapist is like understanding people, right? Like you got to be able to understand people from all walks of life. So going to Maryland and like getting to meet all different types of people, I mean, like there's no real better education to becoming a therapist, right? Because now you got to learn how to deal with different type of people. You got to learn how, like, you know, different aspects of life might be affecting people in ways that like might be affecting their mental health.
Yeah. And that's an invaluable experience, like you said, interacting with so many different people from so many different walks of life, and at Maryland from all different countries, you know, across the globe. So that's so important, man. And like you said, you're a psychology major, you know, African American studies minor, but like what kind of sparked your interest to go into those fields?
I mean, I really liked my African American studies classes in high school. I thought they were the coolest things ever. I actually I celebrate Kwanzaa instead of Christmas actually, right? So like learning about like heritage, learning about like our people is something that's always been big to me, right? And psychology. And this is gonna sound so sad when I say this, but like I kind of just like talking to people. Like honestly, like like honestly, like I like sitting down and getting to know people, right? And I feel like I've been blessed with a gift that like people find it easy to connect with me, right? Let's keep it a buck, right? Like you see me in like
Hmm.
the GSAC suite. It seems like like as soon as I walk in, like, everybody just like everybody wants to come say hi. Everybody like like is like laughing and like smiling with me and stuff. And like I noticed that, right? It seems like people you know find my presence to be like relaxing for some reason. Like they feel like they can just like be at ease with themselves when they're around me, right? And like I thought to myself, why not try to make a career out of that, like just helping people, like using this gift I've been given to just help people with their problems.
Yeah, man. Like you said, that's a skill. That's a gift, and that the fact that you understand that, and the fact that you understand how the impact that you have of just making someone's day. We'll get into your story a little bit later, but just being that hero for someone every
Mhm.
single day, and sometimes being a hero just means having a conversation with someone that didn't have a good conversation with anyone else for the rest of that day, or just saying hi to
Exactly.
someone, right? Just smiling at
Or
someone.
and I'll even say sometimes it's not even having a conversation with somebody.
Hmm.
Sometimes, bro, like I can't tell you how many times where like I'll be sitting around the locker room about to go out to practice, and like my mom and dad will just text me saying like hi, like I hope you're doing okay. And I can't text them back because I'm about to go out to practice, but like that made my day right there. Right. Like sometimes it's even like if you can't respond, like just getting that text that somebody's like thinking about you, somebody's like, hoping you're doing well, like it helps a lot.
No doubt, man. No doubt. And you are able to do that, as a student athlete and have that impact, whether it be your teammates or whether it be other athletes throughout the GSAC suite and things like that. But how did you figure out that kind of balance of being a student athlete, so excelling on the field in baseball, which you have done your entire career, but also be a strong student, but then just still be Max? Like, how have you been able to balance all of that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I mean, I feel like this is just like something I was made for, right? Like I'm not someone who needs a lot to be satisfied, I would guess. And I'm also, blessed to say that I was able to, at least like academically, like I kind of knew what I wanted to do before I even got here. Right. So like I've been able to like take classes and like, study things that I'm actually interested in. Right. Like, and so like I enjoy going to class. I enjoy like learning about things. And like even to that regard, like I've always been someone that's like just very curious about life.
Hmm.
Right. Like I like kind of like I said, like I like learning about people. I like learning about like cultures and traditions. And I like just learning different things. Like I'm the biggest person to have the most random facts about stuff ever. Right. Because like it's cool to like just go and like search things.
Yeah. And I think that's so important for young student athletes that are coming in, maybe freshmen or sophomores that are undeclared, right? It's a lot of times I feel like people try to chase these careers or try to chase these goals that maybe someone else is pushing onto them, whether it be their parents, whether it be money that they're chasing, whether it be something. But I mean, I like the approach that you kind of have taken and understanding your skills, understanding your gifts, right? And what are some areas that I can go into where I can best utilize these gifts and enjoy life, enjoy my
Exactly.
career.
Like like, I remember one of my teachers from middle school, his name is Mr. Buchanan, said that you should find a career. You should find a career that like you would do for free. I would sit down and talk to people about their problems for free. I swear I would. Like I would just sit down and talk to people for free. Like I'm the type of person that just says hi randomly to people while walking across campus. Really.
Gotcha. And talking about that, right? So what are some other resources, that you have had, during your time at Maryland that have helped you as a student athlete and as a man?
All right, so let's talk about the most wonderful human being on the planet, Dr. Michelle Garvin. So Dr. Garvin used to be the head psychologist here in Maryland. And I was blessed enough that like she was the psychologist I was going to see. I'm with Parker now, who's the second greatest human being on the planet. Sorry, Parker. Both of them have been like just I don't even like if I ever was blessed enough to become, you know, wealthy or famous or anything like that, I don't even know if I'd still be able to repay them. Right. Or and to that regard, my coaching staff has been just I don't know how I would repay favors to them for doing what they've done to me. Seriously. Like a lot of the stuff that I've taken from them, like Parker and Dr. Garvin are sports psychologists, right? And my coaches, they're supposed to be teaching me about sports, right? Like how how to win games and stuff. And to be honest, like a lot of the stuff they've taught me, like it's worth like even more for my like life outside of sports, many think. Right? Like most of like I can really think of times where like things that they've taught me to help me become a better athlete has like helped me be like has had more effect in helping me become a better person. And I didn't even realize it, right? And so and I guess like, you know, not even this them, but like the entire like staff over in GSAC, right? Like all of them have just like been there for me. Like I don't even know how to describe that better, to be honest. Like walking in and seeing and Tim's dapping me up, like, what's up, Max? Like, you know, I'm trying to come out to see a baseball game or something, or Risa invites me to her office and like doesn't even have anything for me. She just wants to sit down and talk to me, right? Carl, who's like our head academic guy for us, like he, like, you know, he'll just come by just to say hi to me and stuff. Like I don't think they all realize like how much that stuff means to me, right? Like how like back when I, you know, was going through it, like in my mental health, like how much that stuff really meant to me.
That's beautiful, man. Like that's beautiful, and like Maryland's a special place, right? I've only been here since July 1st, so you've been here way before me. But you know, just in my short time here, it's kind of like, yeah, it's a special place. Especially like, you know, the family atmosphere within athletics and having those, you know, staff members that you can lean on. I mean, it also speaks to kind of the importance of sport, right? We're, you know, I'm working athletics. I'm a former collegiate athlete myself, but it's just so many life lessons that you learn through being a part of a team and through sports that are applicable to life. So
Exactly.
I mean, it's so powerful, man, so powerful. And you were talking about, you know, Dr. Garvin and Parker, and September was National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month.
Yes, sir.
And you wrote a powerful piece. I mean, it was, you know, life changing to many people, I assume, and it was just, I mean, it was great. And you were honest, like you were real. And me and you were talking a little bit before we hopped on here. It's just like, especially with males, and let's just be honest, you know, Black males, mental health is something that we are really never taught. You know, we're not taught that when we're young. We're not taught to talk about that. And it's hard for us to express our feelings because we don't know how we're going to be judged by others or anything like that. But you were vulnerable, you were real, and I mean, it was life-changing. But when did you kind of, you know, become like an advocate for mental health and wellness? And like, when did this become of, you know, something that was so important to you?
You know, I'm gonna say that like I've always been kind of like a mental health advocate, even when I didn't really understand what mental health was. I'll say, and I could go back as far as like middle school in saying this, because like even if I didn't know what mental health was back then, like it was one of those things where it was like I never wanted people to feel like how I was feeling. Right? Like I always felt so just stressed out. Like I couldn't like enjoy things, like fully enjoy things. It felt like, you know, Like I was always so just like anxious, like, you know, like where I couldn't sleep, right? And it was I can honestly say, like, I was really lonely too before you know, I ended up, you know, transferring over to Gilman, right? And I feel like I took those experiences, right, and because I didn't really know like what mental health was, I kind of was just existing that way. But it was also one of those things where it was like I know, like I knew and was like actively knowing like how I was feeling was horrible, and so I didn't want anybody else to feel like I was feeling.
Mm.
It wasn't really until like I learned what mental, like, actually like was told what mental health was, that like I became a mental health advocate, really, I would say. In the regard that like I formally was sent, like was doing things like for mental health work.
I gotcha. And you know, from your piece, man, it's so many lines that kind of stick out. Like so many lines that stick out. I mean, the one that I have right here in my notes is you said, "I want to leave you all with this. I think the most powerful combination of words possible is you are not alone. No feat of any substantial meaning was achieved by one singular person, because at the very least, someone had to believe in them and inspire them. The people that I hold close to my heart are the most important aspects of my life. Without them, I quite literally would not be here." And then after that, you list, you know, all the people that impacted you, you know, through whether it be through, you know, a time where you were really struggling or even maybe before that time. But just kind of speak to those people and like, you know, how did they kind of help you just keep going when you didn't want to?
Yeah, man. So hmm, let's see. I think that at the time it was like, and I even say this now, like when I like kind of like whenever I get some accolade or award or something, right? Like to be honest, those things are meaningless to me now, right? Like of course I'm honored and humbled to be able to get them, but the only thing that really matters in this life now is kind of like what kind of relationships did I make, right? Because there were a lot of days where the people that I mentioned in that piece I wrote, there were a lot of days where they were the only thing, like not even people, but the only things in my life that I really had. Right? They were the only things in my life that I really looked forward to. Right? Like I remember, you know, I one of the people I mentioned was this kid named Paul Franzoni, right? That's one of the kids I mentioned there. I remember like I talked about it in the piece. Like during that summer, I was like like playing baseball at the highest level I've ever played in my life. And I was absolutely miserable. Right. And he and my other housemates were the only people and the only things in my life that were mattered to me at all. Right. Like I'm still, all six of us that lived in that tiny house together, I still talk to them all the time. Right. I think there's see, we said we were going to talk about anime at some point. Here we go. Right.
We
There's
did.
a there's a quote from one of my favorite animes called Naruto. Right. I used to have like a picture of it on the back of my phone, but it kind of got torn off a little bit. So, you know, it's just a white blob, I guess. But I remember he said this quote, right? He said that the people that I call friends are the people whose pain I feel.
Mm.
Right? Like the people who are closest in my life to me, like it feels like I feel their pain too. Right. And the reason I call them so close to me is because at some point or another, they were there to feel my pain. Right. And that's kind of why I said in that piece that they're like those relationships that I mentioned are the most important things to me, because like I feel their pain and they feel mine. Right. and it kind of feels like, what else am like, I could get all the money in the world, like I could have all the fame in the world, right? But if I don't have a friend to just kick it and relax with, right? Like what kind of life am I living? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely,
Right.
man.
You like I know this is gonna sound so cliche, but like you don't take fame or fortune with you when you die, bro.
Mm-hmm.
You don't. You really don't. Right. And legacies are a legacy is only carried on by the people you touched.
That's
Right.
powerful.
It's not about like if you became a billionaire, but you didn't do anything for other people with it. When you die, how many people are going to show up to your funeral? Right. Like when they like the this is the best example I could probably give. Like when, like, knock on wood, because Kobe died suddenly too. Like when LeBron James passes away, right? When they put that statue up of him, it's going to be the people that he touched.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the people he impacted that are going to be putting that statue up of him, right? All those kids that are going to his school, they're going to carry on his name, right? Like people, I like to think that, people die twice, right? The first time when you actually get put in the grave, and the second time is the last time someone says your name.
Mm.
Right? So those people that I hold close to me, right? Those people that I really call friends, right? Like I would hope, like, they would be the people that would carry on my name, right? They go and tell their kids about, there's this, so I had this friend named Maxwell. He was the craziest kid ever, but he was a good dude. You know what I'm saying? Right? Like
That's
honestly,
important. That's so important.
Like honestly though, right?
Yeah.
Like what is life without real connection with people? Right? What is life when you can't just hit up one of your friends randomly and just laugh with them? Right? Like what kind of life is that? Right? So yes, like I'm worried about my academics. Like I want to be a good student, right? Yes, I'm worried about my athletics. Like I'd like to be, I'd like to be a professional baseball player one day. Yes, I'm worried about my future. Like I'd want to study to become a counseling therapist, all that stuff, right? But to be honest, like my biggest goal in life is like, what kind of husband am I going to be? Right? Like what kind of father am I going to be? What kind of friend am I going to be? What kind of son am I going to be? Right? Relationships matter. Right? Those are the only real things in life that matter.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful, man. Wise man already. Like, come on, Max. Like, you give me
Not
so
even.
many. You give me so many gems right now. You give me so
Not
many
even,
gems
man.
right now.
I've had great teachers and mentors.
I like that. I like that. And I mean, you mentioned LeBron James, and the series that this is. And LeBron, he kind of started this movement kind of on the NBA side of things, talking about more than an athlete. And I think you exemplify what more than an athlete means. And you just going that deep into how much more important being an athlete is, right? How much more important things there are in life, right? Than the impact that you have on a baseball diamond, right?
There's so many more important things in life than hitting a baseball.
Yeah. So just talk a little bit about what that means to you, and I'll even go a little bit deeper, right? We know kind of everything that transpired, 2 summers ago, put it that way, with the whole George Floyd incident, that shook our nation, and you took it upon yourself to be a leader and kind of speak out across the campus here at Maryland and throughout the athletics. But like, what does like all of that mean to you, and like you kind of understand the voice that you have? Talk a little bit about that.
Oh boy,
it's a lot. I'm sure it's a lot, but yeah.
I would say more than an athlete would mean to me, like, who am I and how do I define myself? I'll speak personally about this. Like, who am I if I didn't have a glove on my hand? If I wasn't wearing any of my, if I were to walk across campus, right? So we have our backpacks all have our numbers on them, right? If I walked across campus without a backpack with my number on it, who would I be? Right? If life had worked out some way where like I wasn't blessed with amazing hand-eye coordination, like what kind of life would I be living? Right. I feel like that's what more than an athlete means, right? And I can say that one of the things that honestly helped me become a better baseball player was realizing that I didn't need baseball. Like realizing that I could live like a happy, like successful life without baseball made me enjoy baseball more. Right? It made me like playing baseball more. Right? So I would say that being more than an athlete means like finding the things in life that sustain you outside of sports. Right? Like sitting down and talking to people like sustains me. Watching anime sustains me. Don't laugh. Like, mental health awareness sustains me. Writing poetry sustains me. Right? Like all those things are parts of me that have nothing to do with having a jersey. Right? I think because so much of our time is taken up with athletics, right? That it's sad, but like sometimes we don't necessarily get the opportunities to explore like the different parts of ourselves, right? And it is what it is at that point, right? It's one of those things where it's like, that's just one of the drawbacks of being an athlete sometimes, right? But again, like I give this to my upbringing. I was blessed with the fact that I went to a school. I had parents, I had friends that like actively encouraged me to try new things. Right. I was blessed with the fact that like the high school I went to actively encouraged everybody to go try stuff. Like, like one of the things at Gilman was that like you had to be in a club or something. Right. And similarly, every student had to play a sport. Right. So we all got to like understand like what our lives, like what everybody's life was like. And it kind of made you appreciate everybody more. Right. I can tell you times like I remember my senior. Okay, this is a funny story actually. My senior year, there was a kid in the graduating class with us that he was a really big theater kid. Right, and he had the lead role for the play they were putting on for the fall. He got the lead role in it, and I'm never going to forget that. Like a ton of us on like the football and basketball and baseball teams, right? Like opening night, we all showed up to see him do it. You know what I'm saying? Like it was stuff like that kind of like, just raised me into a person where like I appreciate everybody. Like I appreciate the different avenues and different like not necessarily careers, but different like, I guess I would say the different passions in life.
Okay.
Right? Like people who really like making music. Like I appreciate that. Like that stuff is, bro, to be able to sit down and play a flute is the coolest thing. Like I don't get how people play a violin, a guitar, a piano, anything like that. Right? Or the kids I know that have no athletic ability whatsoever. But bro, if you put a sheet of math or some code in front of them, bro, they got it like that. Like I can't do that. Like that's kind of why you see me like at all these different sports and stuff, right? Like, bro, like I can never do what the field hockey girls do. I can never do that. Right? The volleyball team, bro, come on now. Right? Or like the wrestlers or anybody else, right? Like I couldn't do what they do. And that's and instead of being like someone who like is like, oh, like why should I care about that? I don't do that, right? Like like my school raised me into someone to kind of like appreciate that.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. That's so important. Like for real, like it's so important. That's like you gotta think about it. Not many people have that mindset. Not many people understand like, yeah, maybe I'm doing something cool, but these other people are doing stuff just as cool or even cooler. right? And you have that great appreciation for that and that great understanding of that. And that kind of goes back to like just your love for learning, your love for understanding people, your love for talking to people. Like you understand like there's so much more than just what you're doing on a daily basis, and that's rare. Yeah, so I mean,
I try my best.
so that was just between, right? So that's kind of like a little bit of everything that you're doing right now at Maryland. And there's one more thing that we want to talk about a little bit. So September 15th to October 15th, it's Hispanic Heritage Month. And you have spoken out on just the racial injustices that happen, the social injustices that happen. But in a month where we celebrate, Hispanic heritage, what does that mean to you?
I would say that it kind of means the same thing to me as if it was Black History Month, right? Like, again, like, appreciate differences, right? I think that there's a thing that people say all the time, right? That it sounds good in theory, but when you really think about it, right, it's actually like a really bad way to look at things, right? So people will say things like, I don't see color, right? Like in theory and on paper, that sounds really good, right? But when you don't see color, right, you don't see people in different contexts now. If that makes sense, you know what I'm saying? Like you don't see how everybody around you is living different lives, right? When you say something like I don't see color, it's kind of like saying like like you don't like you can't see that everybody around you is having different experiences, right? And it's not a bad thing, right, to notice those differences, right? It's just like, how do I want to say this, right? It's not a bad thing to notice differences. It's only a bad thing when those differences are put into some plan or some form of action that's like detrimental to them, right? Like bro, like when I'm a Black male, right? I'm gonna have different experiences and different different stereotypes and different stressors than a white woman, right? We're gonna have completely different experiences. We aren't the same person, right? But it's important to appreciate those differences, right? And recognize them and say like, just because we're different, it doesn't mean like we should be having to live different, right? Right. So I feel like in something like Hispanic Heritage Month, like I'm not Hispanic, right? I'm fully American Black, right? But I have very close friends that are Hispanic, right? And they deserve my attention in saying that like I want to understand what your life is like. Right? Like I want to know like what are the difficulties that you go through, right? That I might not know. Like I might never experience that.
It's so important, man. It's so important. Appreciate you sharing what that means to you. And we're winding down here. So let's look at beyond, right? So what's next? You are a senior right now. You got one more year of baseball here. You're about to start your senior year of baseball, but you also have aspirations to be a professional in psychology, whether that's sports psychology or in some capacity, just psychology, right? So what are some career goals that you have for yourself?
I like to think that, and again, this is something I was taught while I was in, middle school / high school. So again, like, thank you to them. I think the idea of peace is what I'm really striving for, right? And for me personally, peace means having the resources, knowledge, and support system to be able to deal with any problem. Right. So my biggest aspirations in life is to find a state of peace where it's like, I know that any problem that comes my way, I can take care of it. Right. And that doesn't necessarily mean I have to be overly famous to do that. I don't have to be like extremely wealthy to do that. But like just be in a place where like I know I have everything I need to take care of myself and take care of like potential family, like my like immediate family, like the family that hopefully I'll have one day, but like yeah, like again, like I've never been a person that really needed a lot, right? I've always been someone that's kind of like easily satisfied. So, that's really like my biggest aspiration in life, just a state of being where I'm in peace, like a peace of like self, peace with everything, like, internally and externally, I would say.
Gotcha. And just kind of one more question before I let you plug your stuff or just give some general feedback. But, looking at yourself, let's say, 5 years down the line, I don't like to look too far ahead, but 5 years down the line, right? What would you kind of look back and kind of say, okay, I have, achieved my goal, whether that be professionally or personally, or it could be, just a peace aspect. But 5 years down the line, what would you say would be, all right, I achieved what I set out to do?
I think like, 5 years down the line, again, like I feel like the answer I just gave is kind of like really like what I want to be. Like being at peace doesn't necessarily mean having everything figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I could be at peace and not have a family at the time. I could be at peace and be working a 9 to 5 with 2 kids at the time. Right? Like there's different like, I guess it's a spectrum. It would act on the spectrum, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would say that wherever I'm at that time, right? Whether, professionally, like a career in psychology, like, I'm hoping to be able to go to grad school one day, shout out Tim Bryson for helping me with that. Or, whether it's, I'm playing baseball professionally, right? Like I would just hope that like I find myself in a position where like I'm okay with everything like inside of me going on, okay with everything outside of me going on. And I would still hope like these like relationships that I hold so close to my heart, I would still hope they're happening.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha, man. I appreciate that.
I would hope I'd be able to come back and visit and people would say hi to me, because I'd be really sad if I came back and like Risa's like, "Oh, who are you? I don't remember." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. I mean, you're gonna be missed, of course, by your team, by the baseball team, but I mean, by all the student athletes, right? Just because your energy is rare and it'll be missed, and of course, everyone within athletics will definitely miss your presence being here. And I'll just kind of ask this final question of you, like, what's some just general advice that you would give to young student athletes right now?
Oh boy. Make friends outside of athletics. Like make friends outside of athletics. Like, it's really easy to just, be around your team, like when you're a student athlete at a university, but when it trying to make friends outside of athletics, it kind of forces you to go out and like explore now, right? Like they be having all these like fairs and stuff on McKeldin Mall, right? And I go to them sometimes because like I don't got nothing better to do, bro. Like why not, right? Or they have this comedy improv group that performs in front of McKeldin Library every Friday at 12. I go to that all the time with friends too, right? Like just stuff like that where it's like just kind of just explore where you're at, right? It's when you realize the world is so much bigger than what you think it is, it can be kind of daunting a little bit, but it's also kind of inspiring too. Like what can I go out there and find,
That's great advice, man. Great advice for any student athlete. Hope y'all taking notes. Whoever listening, hope y'all taking notes on this one. But
you're giving me way too much.
But Max, I appreciate your time, man.
No problem, homie.
Just give the people like where they can find you, whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram. I don't know. Do you use Twitter? A lot of y'all don't use Twitter
I don't
anymore.
use, bro.
Okay.
I know if I use Twitter, my mental health would go right back down the drain.
Hey, I respect it. Protect your peace. I
So,
respect that.
I have Instagram. My Instagram is just my name, man. It's Maxwell_Costes. I follow back, so like just hit me with a follow. Yeah, like, if you ever want to, like, I'm someone that, hell, I even think I put it on the piece I wrote. Like, I put my Instagram on there. Like, if you ever need somebody to talk to, just like hit me up, bro. I'm always here to talk.
All right, man. There you have it, Maxwell Myers. You know us, the Maryland Made team. You can find us at MD Made and on Instagram and Twitter. Of course, find us on LinkedIn as well. And until next time, peace.